Dr. Qanta Ahmed is with us right now, the global affairs expert, physician who's worked at Israel and has joined us on a number of occasions with analysis of this conflict. But I have not spoken to you since phase one of the Trump peace deal was agreed to, and now the ceasefire in effect. So what's your kind of big picture view after all we've been through over the last couple of years of where we are now?
Connell, it's a pleasure. We're 12 hours into the 72-hour window. And as you said, the world is on tenterhooks. These are our hostages, hostages of 29 different nationalities that are among those that are going to come back. So it's a global event. The complexity of the health of these people that will be coming out is tremendous, not only physically, but psychologically. And I spoke today to the CEO and the chief of trauma surgery at the Tel Aviv Medical Swarovski Center, and they're preparing in every manner possible. This is only possible because of the incredible military pressure that Israel brought to bear on Hamas in Gaza, despite global ignominy for doing that. There would be no possibility of seeing these hostages out otherwise. And so that has to be acknowledged. And then, of course, the diplomacy of President Trump.
What about that part, that last part? President Trump's role in all of this, in a couple of different ways. You mentioned the diplomacy, and we were talking about Ukraine last hour and people calling on the president to put pressure, as it's such, on Putin. In this case, there were a lot of people saying, well, should he be putting pressure on his ally, Benjamin Netanyahu, in some instances? There's an article from Axios we can put up about how Trump, they say, promised not to let Israel break the ceasefire, and that helped to get a deal, with assurances being a key factor in convincing Hamas to take the deal. And the ceasefire is now officially in effect. The cabinet in Israel approving the deal, and here we are. What would you say about that? I know you've been a supporter of Israel and its approach for the most part in this, but people looking at it from the other side said the fact that Trump was able to be tough on Netanyahu when needed was also important.
First of all, I'm an American, and I am absolutely tremendously in favor of the Trump doctrine, which is to return U.S. power into the center of global politics. So what we're seeing with President Trump is a masterful ability to operate and wield power. It's not enough to hold power, but he's actually utilizing it. He's put pressure, and I've seen that commentary frequently about the pressure placed on Prime Minister Netanyahu. The reality is the Israelis did not have any capability of getting Hamas to agree without this military pressure. So there was no good deal prior to this. But the pressure President Trump has brought to bear has also been on Qatar and has also been on Turkey, and he has leveraged the opportunities posed by Syria. Turkey wants U.S. defense engagement, lifting of sanctions, and huge influence over Syria. Syria wants to be able to survive and not fall apart and become a new Libya. And Israel wants its hostages back. And President Trump has handled that tremendously effectively because American power is back.
It's interesting. It was only last month here in New York, when the UN General Assembly met, that there was all this back and forth and about Palestinian statehood, and we had Benjamin Netanyahu speaking and people walking out, and Israel condemning people, the French and others, for acknowledging that they would support a Palestinian state. So President Trump, and I asked this just to get to where are we going long term in all of this, was actually asked the question yesterday about Palestinian statehood, and I want you to listen to the way he phrased it in his answer. Here's what he said.
We're going to see how it all goes, and there's a point at which we may do something that would be a little bit different and may be very positive for everybody, but we'll be looking at that at the time.
Mr. President,
I think we'll get to that. I think we'll get to that period too.
I thought that last part was interesting because he paused. If you notice, they weren't going to ask him another question. He says, "I think we'll get to that period too." What do you think he meant?
Well, there can be no Palestinian state while there is governance of Hamas in a closed space, and that Hamas cannot go away until its patrons that are financing it, Iran, Qatar, Turkey that hosts still Hamas leaders, Doha that was hosting Qatar, that was hosting Hamas leaders as recently as last month when there was a strike, until those are removed. And so if we are going to have a Palestinian state, and I do believe the Palestinian people deserve statehood without a terror group holding them hostage.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.